Hello writers, come write with me. My name is Mykela Greenwood. I create world for mind adventures. Welcome to my YouTube channel, Write with Mykela. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the bell so you can go on this journey with me. Today is Tuesday, and Tuesdays are for Jargon, or short writing prompts. Today we're going to talk about some of the jargon. You don't have to remember the jargon, but a certain awareness will be good. The first term I would like to address is protagonist. For a short, simple explanation, the protagonist is the main character. Basically, it is who the story is about. Example, Superman is about Superman. Lois Lane is not the protagonist. Although somebody could certainly change the story to be about her, but until they do that, the protagonist is Superman. Now, a simple Google search will say there are 4 types of protagonists: heroes, anti-heroes, villain protagonists, and supporting protagonists. When you decide you need to develop your characters when you decide to write, you need to develop your characters, and the protagonist is the main character you develop. They are the reason the plot moves forward. So let's look at these types. Heroes or heroines save the day. Without them, the whole world or story would fall apart. Think of Superman. He saves the day. He's the main character. But if we made it about Lois Lane instead of Superman, Superman would still be a hero, but the main character would be Lois Lane. We would see her life, her issues, how she handles things. Basically, your protagonist doesn't have to be your hero. So that's your decision. One reason I love writing, and you will too, is I get to choose everything. I usually go with a hero or heroine protagonist, although sometimes my protagonist or main character may not know they're destined to be the hero. In some of my stories, my other characters have told my main character their destiny. This is all your choice. When you write, this is the fun. Now, let's look at the less obvious types, and you choose which one to have fun with. The anti-hero is a main character in a story who lacks the typical heroic qualities of bravery and courage and morality and the special ability and desire to achieve the greater good. The anti-hero is thus still the protagonist of your story or your narrative, yet is a contrast to the traditional hero archetype. To make things a little clearer, anti, of course, means against. The word hero means a protector or defender. An example of this anti-hero or anti-hero protagonist is Scarlett O'Hara with Gone with the Wind. Scarlett wasn't trying to save the day. She was always looking out for herself. What could benefit her? What helped her live in all that she went through? So she wasn't a hero, but she was certainly the main character. Now let's look at the villain protagonist. Foremost, a villain protagonist is a villain, an undeniable bad guy who drives the plot as the main character. This is different from a simple anti-hero, because a typical anti-hero might simply be an unexpected protagonist without the usual sunny, upstanding brilliance of a classical hero. A villain protagonist is an anti-hero with a decidedly evil aim or action, or several aims and several actions. It doesn't have to be single. A story with a vampire as the main character might qualify, or Gru in Despicable Me would be an example. Now, if you rewrote 101 Dalmatians to be from Cruella de Vil's perspective, you would also have a villain protagonist, right? Except I think Disney already did that. Let's look at the last type of protagonist, as supporting protagonist. This one is less common than the other types of protagonists. When you tell a story from a perspective of a seemingly minor character in the story, this is a supporting protagonist. This minor character could be a sidekick. There is often a character in the story who seems more important or who experiences more of the main action, but the supporting protagonist's otherwise minor role in your story becomes more important because you tell the story from their perspective or their viewpoint. You still have more choices. You can have multiple protagonists or even a false protagonist. It all depends on what you want. Most often I have hero or heroine protagonists. The fun is you as a writer get to decide how you want to write your story. And this is one of the first choices you make, your protagonist. And you get to decide if he or she is strong or needs help, or somehow circumstances accidentally place him or her in the hero's position. Is your character in the prophecies to be the leader or hero? Do you have prophecies? If not, then how is it decided that this is the hero or villain? Think of Frodo Baggins. He's just going along his life. Bilbo gave him the ring and told him what to do with it. But Frodo wouldn't have made it without Sam. I think everyone in life needs a Sam, but we don't all have a Sam. As we choose our protagonists, we need to decide if our protagonist needs a Sam or a sidekick. Sometimes I think of a sidekick as comic relief. But you just decide what you want your sidekick to be if you have one. Now, you might make some of those decisions based on the antagonist. This is another term or part of the jargon. An antagonist is a person who actively opposes or is hostile to your main character. An antagonist is not necessarily evil. He or she merely has opposing actions, thoughts, motives, etc. to the protagonist. It is my belief that without the antagonist pushing against or opposing or contending with or challenging the protagonist, then the protagonist won't meet his or her potential. Therefore, without the antagonist, the protagonist won't become the hero. A simple Google search will show you that there are 5 types of antagonists. Malevolent villain, the ally antagonist, the interfering authority figure, the force of nature, and the inner saboteur. Now, you don't need to remember all these terms, but understand, I'm trying to show you some choices. If you don't know all these terms, you don't know you have this choice. And once you start writing, you don't need to remember the terms. You make your choice, you go with it. I think it's good to know about the choices, but I don't constantly think while I'm writing, I have a malevolent antagonist. I just think about who my characters are, and I try to write their parts within the character design I've chosen or developed. The same will be true for you. So don't worry about all these terms. Just concentrate on different choices you have and think about which one will be the most fun for you. The standard malevolent villain is particularly common in the fantasy genre, but you can use it in other genres as well. Malevolent means wishing evil or harm to another or others, showing ill will, ill-disposed, malicious, or nefarious. So if your antagonist is malevolent villain, they intend evil towards your protagonist, or your main character, or your city, or your kingdom. They will do things that make other people cringe, sick to their stomach, Honestly, this much evil is hard for me to write, but I tried. Think of Queen Grimhilda, or the evil queen in Snow White. She wouldn't be evil if she didn't ask her huntsman to cut out Snow White's heart, or if she didn't give Snow White a poisonous apple. Something bad has to happen from this character to your main character, or your main character's city, or village, or kingdom. Of course, the huntsman killed a pig instead of Snow White. So there can be interference where the evil deed isn't actually committed. It's just ordered. Remember, these are your choices. But if the huntsman had killed Snow White and cut out her heart, the story would have ended, and Snow White wouldn't have met the 7 dwarfs. The ally antagonist is a particular surprise in the story when an ally becomes an antagonist. This is a useful character because he or she shows how easy it is for a good character to make a regrettable choice. Ally antagonists add shades of gray in the black and white of good versus evil. They show how easily people can take destructive paths that result in negative outcomes. Another name for ally antagonist is a hero antagonist, because they have noble ideas and they're motivated by these ideas. There is a saying somewhere that the end doesn't justify the means, and that would be true here. I think we can figure out the interfering authority figure, since the function of the antagonist in terms of plot is to stand between the primary character and their goal. So an interfering authority figure is thus useful for creating challenges and complications that make life harder for our protagonist or our main character. This could be a government or a mother-in-law or a principal. Think of Ferris Bueller's Day Off. The principal was the authority and the antagonist. This plot point shows how the interfering authority antagonist can make selfish or value-driven choices that get in the way of your protagonist. One of the few types of antagonists that don't need a clear motivation is the force of nature. This type of antagonist does not have a character history in the sense of a backstory explaining how they became corrupt. Here you can think about the shark in Jaws, or the megalodon in the Meg, or you can think about twisters or snowstorms. With these, it is the unpredictable nature that makes it interesting. Although this is not entirely an antagonist in the sense of a separate opponent, the reaction from your character's worst self is also a useful source of tension, opposition, character growth. As a writer, we need to remember that we don't always react to things the way we think we would, and neither will our characters. This could be a moment outside of character, or this could be the journey of your hero. Now, in a story where a character's main struggle is an internal struggle, i.e. drug addiction, the protagonist and antagonist are rolled into one, in a sense. Rather than the main conflict being external, the conflict takes place within a single character. Thus you have the inner saboteur. I think most of us have inner struggles, and our characters probably should too, but the inner saboteur would derail the progress and not necessarily help the character to evolve. I've given you a lot of terms, but I don't want you to worry. I want you to have fun. I want you to think about your main character and how do you want the character to act or react. As you develop the story, your character will automatically become one of the 4 types of protagonists. You don't have to worry about that. Just right. Likewise, you don't have to worry about the type of antagonist you have. It will happen naturally with your plot. Just have fun. Or maybe even your main bad guy or antagonist takes a break, and then there's a twister. So that makes it hard for your main good guy to get ahead. As you're looking for ideas, don't look at a blank page. There are lots of places to find ideas for these characters. You can look at yourself or your friends. You can look at teachers or bosses. You can watch television or read a book. I believe that watching people is important. If you want your characters to seem real to your readers, then watch how people react and interact with each other. I've given you a lot to think about. If you watched on Friday, you have a plot to work with, and now you have some jargon. Just have fun and start writing. You can refine things when you edit. So don't let the editing and the jargon get in the way of the creativity that you have when you're writing. Leave a comment on which type of protagonist you're thinking about using when you write for our shared plot. If you need the plot, then email me at writewithmykela@gmail.com and ask for the PDF of Plot 1. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the bell notification so we can keep writing together. Join me Friday for Chapter 1, An Unfortunate Picnic, in my version of Plot 1, City of the Ancients. Join me Tuesday for some more jargon. We will look at setting and plot, genre, mood, and theme. So you can you can have those terms as well. Soon you can check out my website at www.bymykela.com and read character bios for my Mykela series. Thank you for joining me today. I appreciate your participation. If you know someone who would like this video, then please share it with them. This is Mykela with Write with Mykela. Bye for now.